I've been using an automatic litter box for about 3 years now. When I bought my first one, there were only a couple of serious brands on the market. Since then, dozens have popped up. And whenever a new product category starts getting crowded, I usually let the early adopters work through the first round of issues. Firmware updates, sensor tuning, and real-world usage. That phase is inevitable. So when Petlibro reached out about sponsoring a review of the Luma, I already knew what to expect and what my 4 cats would do to it.
What do you think, Loki?
I cannot put out a video recommending something unless I am confident my cats are safe using it. So before this ever went into full automatic mode, I ran it through my own Butler stress tests, and it did not take long for my own apartment life to test exactly how those safety features handle a real obstruction. And again, this video is sponsored, but the opinions are mine. First impressions out of the box? Well, the liner immediately caught my attention. It's some sort of synthetic fabric, not silicone like some other brands, and it looks and feels more durable. The litter box stepper is included. Some brands sell the step separately, so it's another additional cost. I know because I've bought one before. It's right here, small thing, but appreciated. The most important thing for viewers to understand is the safety profile. The Luma doesn't use the typical rotating drum design like my previous unit. Rotating drums have their own risks, mainly paw catching during a rotation, but the Luma uses a different internal cleaning mechanism, which means different potential risks, therefore different things to test. So before I ever turn on automatic mode, I updated the firmware immediately. Then I ran 30 cleaning cycles. I simulated a paw entering during the cleaning cycle, and a cat that was walking past the entrance while it was in motion and messing around. And every single time, the sensors triggered an emergency stop in my testing. Only after that did I allow all 4 cats to use it normally. But there is just one rule. If your cats are kittens, don't use any robotic litter box yet. Along with visual sensors, these systems also rely on weight sensors. They need some mass to register properly. Additionally, kittens are more likely to prod and poke at moving things. Wait until they're adults. All my cats are above 7 at this point. With my previous drum style box, when clumps drop downward into the waste bin, a cat would sometimes try to rescue them. Of course, the box would stop, but I also don't want them to paw around with dirty, clumped litter. The Luma moves differently. The cleaning motion travels vertically, bottom to top, and the clumps are carried upward and deposited into a waste compartment without that obvious falling moment. It's just less stimulating to watch. Of course, all cats are unique. Yours may react differently. But this one has been much less of a spectator sport. When I first bought a robotic litter box 3 years ago, it was purely about convenience. I had just returned to the office and I didn't want my cat stepping into a dirty litter box while I was gone all day. Automatic scooping solved that problem. And now that they're older, my priorities have changed. As the litter box is usually where health issues show up first, in a multi-cat home that can get pretty complicated. So if something looks off, the first question is, who did it? That's the real reason I was open to upgrading. You can see which cat used the box, track their weight over time, log frequency, and view images of what was deposited. Now I'll be honest, I don't usually love companion apps for appliances, and I don't need another dashboard in my life. However, this one was surprisingly usable. The layout is clean, the data was pretty easy to interpret, and alerts are of course configurable so it doesn't feel like it's constantly pinging you for no reason. There is some AI features which visually categorizes waste as pee or poop, and yes, it'll occasionally mislabel. And to be clear, this is not a diagnostic tool, It's not analyzing health markers or replacing a vet. I just use it as an observation log. And the value for me is simple. I can look at which cat produced what, which makes me sound like a peeping Tom, but it's what butlers have to do sometimes. And surprisingly, the images and videos are pretty high quality, which makes it a lot easier to spot trends early. Cat recognition accuracy was actually pretty decent in my testing, but even when it misidentifies, the images and timestamps will still give you enough context to correct the mislabeling, which is pretty easy to do. As the AI continues to learn about your cat's appearance, the identification will be more accurate over time. Rosie and Ash were correctly identified almost every single time. Loki, who is a Korean short hair with dark striping, occasionally confused the system. Same with Latte, who is a Bengal with bold spotting, also threw it off a few times. Pattern codes seem to be a little bit more challenging. And that's how I use it, as layered information, not a single source of truth. Moving on to the hardware itself, there are a few things that I really liked. First, it has a more open design, and we all know that cats prefer open litter boxes because cats like visibility and a clear escape route. This is definitely less cave-like. I was initially worried about the interior size from the online photos, but in person it's definitely larger than it looks. All 4 of my cats can comfortably turn around. It's actually roomier than my previous unit. Second, you have more control over the delay before the cleaning cycle starts. The old box only had 3 settings. This one is more granular. That matters depending on the litter type and how quickly it clumps. Too early may cause smearing, and too late defeats the purpose. I think a good sweet spot is around 5 to 10 minutes. Now, this leads us to an unplanned test I had this week. A plastic spray bottle got knocked into the drum while it was mid-cycle and jammed the closing mechanism. I figured it out when the app alerted me that it had jammed.
Basically what happened was this was caught right in between here, and these 2 sliding doors couldn't close. So that's when it alerted me and jammed shut.
I took it apart and removed the bottle. After I took it out, the machine worked as normal. The bottle looked okay, so I guess random things dropping inside is a drawback of a more open box. However, it does highlight the next feature that I like: deep cleaning access. It comes apart easily. If you've owned robotic litter boxes, you already know this is where some designs get frustrating. This one is straightforward, which makes long-term ownership more realistic. A few other quick observations. One of my cats pees in a line. Can you guess which one? Luckily, the walls are high enough to contain the stream, so there hasn't been any leakage issues. Odor control has been actually pretty good compared to my old unit. This is likely due to the rear fan system that leads to the carbon filter in the bottom of the box. The fan typically turns on automatically during its cleaning cycle, but you can turn it on manually if you need to in the app. One problem I had with my previous robotic litter box was that the silicone liner eventually tore or needed patching or replacing over time. I remember the silicone liner having wear marks from scratching within the first week of the cats using it. Luma's liner sits lower and the upper walls are hard plastic, so a cat scratching it doesn't directly stress the liner in the same way. I also haven't had any sticking issues so far, which did happen regularly with silicone. The cleaning motion is slow and consistent and doesn't startle anyone, so a calm machine is a positive. Finally, the fill rate. With 4 cats, the waste drawer fills in about 3 to 4 days, very similar to my previous unit. Interestingly, I've been putting the Luma and my other litter box out at the same time, and the Luma has been filling up quicker. This likely just means that they prefer using it. There are a couple of things I didn't love. The core features automatic scooping, pet recognition alerts and live streaming, and direct recording from said live stream work without issue. But video cloud saving and AI waste categorization require a subscription. I personally would prefer a one-time unlock function instead of recurring billing for the all-in-one features. That said, the essential functionality of the machine does not depend on the subscription. One of the things I actually used surprisingly quite often was the live streaming feature. Again, that is free. Whenever there was a lot of digging outside the bedroom, I frequently checked that camera to see what was going on instead of leaving the room to check. A few neutral observations. An open design means potentially more litter tracking, depending on how your cat exits. You can mitigate this with smart placement or a litter splash guard. You'll get the most value if you use the app, but if you prefer offline notification-free devices, this may not be for you. All robotic litter boxes make noise during their cleaning cycle. The fans have 2 modes just in case your cats are sensitive to noise. This one is not louder, but it does have a different frequency. Be aware if your cats are sensitive to specific sounds. The Luma has been on automatic mode for almost a month now. I don't see any visible wear, and there hasn't really been any big issues to speak of. I went into this cautious. I tested it before letting my cats do their own tests with it, and with the updated firmware, the safety systems worked consistently. Thanks to Petlibro for sponsoring the video. To their credit, they are taking feedback seriously, and I have not encountered any weird behavior in my testing. I can only speak to my unit and my experience. But in a 4-cat household, keeping the box clean while monitoring individual habits has been a meaningful quality of life upgrade. If you're considering one and this fits your situation, you can check the link in the description and use TN15 for 15% off. Do your own research, understand your cat's needs, behaviors, and your own comfort level before making a decision. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.